Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to go over my tier list ranking the tarot cards in Balatro. So I'm going to start off right at the beginning with the full S tier. Tremendous tarot card. It's going to create the last tarot or planet card used during this run, of course, itself being excluded. So if you're playing certain kinds of planet or tarot cards and you want to load up on them, the Fool is a great one to have in addition to that to get a duplicate of whatever strong card that you had used. Next up on the list, I have the Magician, and I'm going to slot that in to the B tier. And these tarot cards that enhance playing cards, very solid, increasing the potential point scoring that you're going to get there. So for the Magician, enhances 2 selected cards to lucky cards, a 1 in 5 chance to get a plus 20 malt, 1 in 15 chance to win $20, and having a lot of enhanced lucky cards that I'm playing is really something that I like because it boosts up that economy. Although it's only a 1 in 15 chance, it definitely hits probably more often than you might expect, and getting that $20 is really nice. And then the other side of that, the 1 in 5 chance at the plus 20 malt can also be very additive in your scoring. Next up, the High Priestess, I'm going to slot into D category. This one, it's going to create up to 2 random planet cards if you have room in your consumables area. The reason why I don't love this one is because you have no idea what planet cards are showing up, and oftentimes you're going to be curating your run around a specific hand type. And in a situation where it's creating 2 random planet cards, it's not a high probability that you're going to get the type of planet card that you're looking for. The situation where I'm most likely to use this card for me personally is if I have a joker like Constellation, where every planet card that is played, its time multiplier goes up by 0.1. So every time you play the High Priestess, you get an increased times multiple on that particular joker, which gives it a decent utility in that situation. Next up is the Empress, which I'm also going to slot in to B tier along with the Magician. Both of these enhance your playing cards. So the Empress enhances 2 selected cards into malt cards, and the malt on that is going to be +4 to the multiplier. So of course, these enhanced cards making that scoring even better for the playing cards that you're going to be putting out there. Next up, Emperor, I'm going to slot in to A tier. This one is going to create up to 2 random tarot cards into your consumables area. Of course, you must have room. Since basically the majority of tarot cards are really strong, the fact that this one is going to create 2 random tarot cards, you're likely going to get at least 1 strong one, if not 2. And this one pairs nicely with a joker like Fortune Teller, where every time you play a tarot card, it's going to add +1 to the multiplier on the effect of that joker. So this one, when you use it, it gets that +1 to the mult, and then it's creating 2 tarot cards. You can use both of those, so in the end, it ends up adding a +3 to the multiplier to the Fortune Teller joker. It can be really great in that situation. Next up, Hierophant. I'm also going to slot in to B tier along with the other jokers that are enhancing our playing cards. This one enhances 2 selected cards to bonus cards, getting +30 extra chips when they are scored. I'm pretty much never going to complain when I have to use these enhanced tarot cards, Hierophant, the Magician, as well as the Empress. Now we finally run into a tarot card that I have quite a bit lower on our list down there at the bottom, Lovers. This one enhances 1 selected card into a wild card. Now, even though the fact that I do flushes a lot means that this one does bring utility in the fact that it does help create those flush hands, the downside to this, especially if you're running into boss blinds that debuff a particular suit, well, since this one essentially counts as every suit, it makes it so it debuffs these cards quite often. Next up, the Chariot, I'm going to slot there into A tier. I love anything that can give me times multiplier. This one is going to enhance 1 selected card into a steel card, meaning that you're going to get a times 1.5 multiplier while the play hand is being scored. And this can, of course, pair really well with something like a red seal on a steel card, and also a joker like the Mime, which is going to re-trigger the effects of the cards that are held in hand, meaning you would get an additional trigger. Not only does it have solid utility in and of itself at that times 1.5 multiplier, but there's other ways where you can get that to re-trigger and be even more powerful. Next up, Justice is also one that I'm going to slot in to A tier. I love glass cards, especially as you're working your way later on into a run where you really need to get that times multiplier to beef up the scoring of your multiplier. So this one's going to enhance 1 selected card into a glass card, gives you a times 2 multiplier. The downside to this one is there's a 1 in 4 chance to destroy the card. So with this one, I'm usually trying to save it to later on in the run when I need that times multiplier. And then the impact of playing it, the 1 in 4 chance to destroy card, isn't as much of a negative detriment if you're saving this until using them later on in your run. But nonetheless, the times 2 multiplier, really great, comes in handy a lot, and that's why I'm slotting it up there in A tier. Now we get to the Hermit. I love economy, anything to boost up my cash position, and the Hermit, it's It's going to double your money, but it maxes out at just 20. But still, nonetheless, when you're increasing your cash position, it allows you to, of course, be a little bit more liberal with your money and spending on things like packs, jokers, cards, rerolls, things that are going to improve the strength of your position. As long as you have an okay economy to begin with, you're going to max out that doubling of the money at $20. The next tarot card, Wheel of Fortune. This is one that is high risk, high reward. There's a 1 in 4 chance to add a foil, holographic, or polychrome addition to a random joker. In my list, this is one of the lower tier tarot cards that I play more than a lot of the other lower tier ones because I really like to get those additions if it can hit. It just seems like a lot of times when you're using this, you just leave empty-handed. It's really more of a tarot card that you would use from a position of strength where you've already utilized a lot of the other tarot cards to beef things up with your playing cards, your economy situation, and you just want to roll the dice on one to help make one of your jokers an addition, which is a really great thing, of course, to get. More often than not, I would use Wheel of Fortune later on in a run when I'm in a better position as opposed to early on, where it can leave me holding the bag, not getting any benefit out of that more often than not when it's played. Moving on to page 2, Strength, I'm going to slot into C tier. This one, it increases the rank of up to 2 selected cards by 1. So for me personally, I use the flush strategy a lot, so this one doesn't really help as much in that scenario, unless it's particularly related to a joker that's going to help me out if I need certain kinds of cards. Like for instance, if I have a joker that's going to give me a positive benefit if I have a king, well then of course I can play this on a queen and it can increase the number of king cards that I have. This one can also come in handy for creating hand types like pair, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, 5 of a kind, full house. When you're trying to curate your deck in a way that you're getting more of specific types of cards, strength can be beneficial in that way, but it has to come from a card that's just 1 rank below the card that you're looking for. So it can max out its effectiveness in that situation pretty quickly once you're using strength on those cards, and then depleting the cards that are just 1 rank below the cards that you're looking to create from this strength. Next up, Hanged Man. I was debating whether to slot this into A or B tier. I'm ending up just slotting it right at the top end of B tier. This one destroys up to 2 selected cards. I like reducing the number of cards because it just makes it easier to find the cards that you're looking for to create the types of hands you want to score with, and destroying cards is a benefit in that. There's also joker cards that have the effect where if you destroy other cards, it can benefit them, like the legendary card Canio. Any face card you destroy adds a ×1 multiplier to that, so Hanged Man can be extremely strong in those kinds of situations. It's definitely a really solid tarot card that brings some utility to the table. Next up, Death. I'm going to slot up in S tier towards the top. So select 2 cards and it's going to convert the left card into the right card. Now, if you already have playing cards that are really strong, let's just say, for instance, maybe you have a steel card with a red seal on it. Well, if you can make a copy of that card, that is just tremendously powerful. But this one is pretty much always bringing some utility to the table. If you're trying to get a lot of one particular rank of a card, of course, it's very helpful. Even in a situation where you're trying to improve the odds of your flush deck, you can, of course, convert a particular card to the suit that you're looking for. This one just brings a lot of great things, and as a result, slotting it up there in S tier. Next up, Temperance. I'm also going to slot this one really high. I love what it can do, especially later on in a run if you have a situation where your jokers have high sell value or you've utilized a lot of negative jokers, which you can also add to what this one does. It's going to give the total sell value of all current jokers. This one maxes out at $50, which makes it a little more powerful in obviously certain instances compared to the Hermit, which maxes out at $20. But this one, it's more so going to be later on in a run in general when you've powered up your joker situation, where this one is going to match at least the effectiveness of Hermit and then potentially surpass it. So the reason why I'm slotting this one a tier lower than Hermit is because you already need to be in a position of strength more often than not for this one to be really strong and have a very positive effect on that cash position. So you might already be in a situation where you're quite strong. Anything related to money that you're spending to increase your position of strength is helped by Temperance when you're getting that cash. The Devil, I'm going to slot in to D tier. In general, this is one that I'm not enthusiastic to get. I'd rather get a lot of other enhanced effects as opposed to getting this one. So it's going to enhance one select card into a gold card, $3 if this card is held in hand at the end of the round. Cards that I'd rather be holding in my hand are things like steel cards to increase my scoring position. And then it's also just taking an enhancement slot on a playing card away from something that can boost up your scoring with a lot of these cards that I have in B and A tier. They're just better in my opinion. That's why I'm putting the Devil down there in D tier. Another tarot card that enhances that I'm going to slot pretty far down is the Tower. However, this one can come in handy in situations where you're creating easier hands to play like high card pair, and it allows you to get a scoring high chips card in those situations where you're playing the high card pair, things like that. So it's going to enhance one selected card into a stone card, plus 50 chips, no rank or suit. So again, when you're playing high card pair, if you slot in a stone card with that, it's going to boost up that chips number, so it's decent to play in that situation. But again, there's just so many other tarot cards that I'd rather use most of the time. It's not a bad one necessarily to fall back on, particularly with those hand type strategies that I've been mentioning, but still, nonetheless, going to slot that one into D tier because I'm just not using it as much as a lot of these other cards. Next up, Star, I'm also going to put pretty low on our list here, down in E tier, and it's simply because when I'm going for a flush strategy, I'm typically not prioritizing diamonds because there are specific curated Joker cards that help benefit each suit, and the one that's related to the diamond suit is just not as good as the ones that are related to clubs, hearts, and spades. So because of that, I'm just not prioritizing diamonds, and I'm not looking to use Star as a result. So this is going to convert 3 selected cards to diamonds. Again, I'm just not getting a lot of benefit out of this one, pretty much any run that I'm going into. Next up, the moon, I'm going to slot into C tier, and I'm actually also going to do this with the sun and world. When I'm curating my flush deck, these are the ones that I'm looking for, and I'm not too picky based on which one that I end up getting. But if I had to put them in order, I'm probably going with spades first, then clubs, then hearts, and then diamonds are the ones that I'm not prioritizing. These are ones that I can use early on in a run in particular to make it easier to get the types of flush hands that I'm looking for. And then once I've gotten enough of the suit of what I'm looking for, then we can start enhancing them with a lot of these other tarot cards. They bring decent utility to the table if you're prioritizing that flush type hand. Otherwise, they're just not quite as good. It just kind of depends on what type of strategy you're going for. I could even make an argument for me, especially since I use flushes so often, that these could move up the tier list in that instance, but I feel comfortable kind of slotting them in the middle of the pack here in that C tier. And then next up, we have the Judgment, which is one that I think is underrated a little bit. I'm going to slot it into C tier, especially if you're in the tougher stakes, moving up to gold stake. This one creates a random Joker card, and the nice thing about the Joker card that it creates is it's not going to be eternal, it's not going to be a rental, it's not going to be temporary. So if it ends up creating a Joker card that you can utilize, you can feel pretty good about keeping it up in that area. But even if it ends up creating a Joker card that you don't love, you can always sell that and pocket a little bit of the money there with that one. And then there's actually one more that I'm going to throw in here, and it's right at the top of S tier, and that is Soul. There is a 0.3% chance that this one is going to show up in an Arcana pack. And this one, of course, if you have room, it's going to create a legendary Joker. Hard to argue with the strength of that one, and that is why I'm putting it at the top of our list. And that's going to finish this one out. So this is my current tier list of tarot cards. I hope it was helpful in some way. I appreciate you guys stopping by, and consider subscribing for more Balatro content in the future.